Hey everyone, welcome to Pixel Pathfinder. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button for more great indie games coverage here on the channel. In this video, we're going to be checking out Legend of Keepers, one of my top games of 2020 and one that I'm really excited to show off to you here. This is a turn-based strategy game where you play as the dungeon master of a dungeon full of monsters, and you're basically trying to prevent heroes from getting through your dungeon and taking down all your hard work and efforts. So this game can get a little bit complicated. It's pretty deep. It's pretty fun. I enjoy it quite a bit, and we're gonna hop in here with a brand new save file. And as we go, since I'm experienced with this game, we're gonna kind of talk through some of the aspects of the game and how you play. So this is going to get a little bit heavy, but if you're into this type of game, I think you're really going to enjoy this. So when you first start off with a new save file, you're going to have an option of one dungeon master that you're able to play as, and that is going to be the slave holder. There's also the engineer and the enchantress. They all have different specialties, and they have different talent trees that you can put points into. So as you play the game, you're going to get XP, you're going to level up, and you're going to be able to put points into this talent tree and unlock some bonuses. The slave holder has an emphasis on minion-based combat. The engineer is really good with traps, and the enchantress is really good with spells. And those are the three main things you're going to use to fight the heroes in their various dungeons. So as we see here, we've got our little chart of information here, and this is going to show us what monsters we have available to us. So we have a starting roster of monsters with the blue outlines here, and then this sort of brownish outline are the starting traps that we have. If we go to customization, we can adjust various difficulty levels and as a result affect the amount of experience that we gain. So we're going to jump in here. We're going to ignore the talents for now. We'll come back to that later. And we're going to just jump into our first campaign, our first run, essentially. The way the runs work is you have different weeks and you try to play through a full year's worth of content, and if you get to the end, you win the run. So there are 52 weeks that you go through. Some weeks you're going to fight, other weeks you're going to do things to bolster your monsters or level up or train or get bonus resources. So down here at the bottom, we've got some stats for our character. We've got our health. We've got our health regeneration. We've got our level. If we hover over this, we can see some more stats and our different skills. We'll get into those later if we actually end up getting into combat with our dungeon master. We've got a slot for artifacts and stuff down here. We're going to get into all this a little bit later. So what we're going to do now is actually jump in. Anytime you see adventurers, that means you're going to do the combat round, the main gameplay focus of this game. So we're going to jump in. Week one's always going to be adventurers. So we kick things off with a preparation phase where we're going to set up and prepare for the heroes to invade our dungeon. When we start out, it's going to show us the heroes that are invading. It's also going to show us our dungeon layout up at the top. And this is what we use to kind of set the stage. What's going to happen is this dungeon layout on the top dictates how the heroes are going to progress through our dungeon. So when you see these skulls, that means they're going to fight our monsters. This bear trap here means they're going to encounter a trap that we set up. And this sort of like crystal ball means they're going to get hit by one of our spells that we have. The final slot at the end with the crown is them fighting the dungeon master if they make it that far. So the heroes are trying to get all the way to the dungeon master and defeat the dungeon master. If your dungeon master dies, then you lose the game. Now, they will not progress all the way to the end if you manage to get rid of them before then. Heroes have two main stats that you can work with in order to get rid of them. The first is health. So this scout here has 160 health. If we reduce this to 0, they'll die, and they're done progressing through the dungeon. Below that, we have morale. So they have 155 morale. If you reduce that to 0, the heroes will flee the dungeon. They'll run away, and that also counts as a defeat. So that's what we're trying to do. Either reduce their health or reduce their morale in order to defeat them and not allow them to get to our dungeon master and take on our health points. So when we're looking at the character stat panel down here, this is going to be the same for both the heroes and our monsters. They're going to look the same. So down here we have our health and our morale. Underneath we have our power, which is going to determine how much damage our various skills do. And then we have our speed. In this game, the fastest monster or hero will always go first, and then it will go down from there until the slowest monster or hero goes last. Up here we have the class of the hero or monster, their level, and an icon for them. In this section here, we have a list of various resistances. So there are 4 elements in the game: fire, ice, nature, and air. And then there's also just physical damage, which is equated to armor in terms of resistances. So this will show us that this character has no resistance to fire, minus 20% resistance to ice, 20% to armor, 10% to nature, and 0% to air. So these modifiers will directly affect the amount of damage that this character takes. On the far right side here, we have our skills and our active abilities. Skills are normally passive and just do something based on a trigger. So in this case, the scout will dodge the effect of the first trap. So the first trap that we put up in our dungeon, the scout will be unaffected by it. Then we have their active moves here, which are distinguished by these little diamonds. These indicate where this attack is viable to use. So in this case, it's saying that this ability will affect the back row of our monsters. Above this, you're going to see 3 spots where we can put monsters. These correspond to the diamonds here. So the pink diamond is where this will attack. So it'll attack in this back spot back here. If we switch over to the elf, you'll see she has an area attack. So when she uses this ability, it's going to deal ice damage to all the characters, and it will apply elemental weakness, which will reduce all elemental resistances by 20. If we look at the priestess, she has an ability that only hits the first slot for our monsters here. So when it comes to this game, a lot of the strategy comes down to aligning your monsters against the heroes, take into consideration positioning and the various resistances that the heroes have and your monsters have. So the first thing we like to do is take a look at the passives and see how that's going to affect combat. So dodging the effect of the first trap has no relevance on this first monster fight. Here, this character will heal 50% of one hero's maximum life after a fight once. So this is going to be super important because it means if we don't outright kill one of the heroes, this character will heal 50% of their maximum life, which is pretty significant and can kind of undo everything we're working towards if we're trying to defeat these enemies via health. Then we have the priestess, who will replace one of her penalties with a bonus at the start of her turn once. So if we put like a poison on her, when her turn comes around, she may turn the poison into like a strength buff. So all in all, this stuff is not too terrible, not too crazy. The main thing we're wanting to watch out for right now is this elf and her heal. So we're going to either want to kill an enemy hero outright, or we're going to want to focus on morale damage so that this skill doesn't do anything effective. So to do that, we're going to have to look at what our characters can do and then match up resistances. So we have a goblin here. Our goblin can deal 35 physical damage to the back or 35 nature damage to the front and apply a poison. Now in this case, the priestess has minus 45% to nature, which means we would hit her really hard with that skill, but also because we put the poison on her, she would turn that into a bonus at the start of her turn. So we would be dealing a lot of damage, but also giving her a bonus. We have our orc here. And our orc can deal 35 physical damage to the front and apply a bleed, or it can do 15 morale damage to all heroes. Once again, the priestess has some resistance, has some armor, 15%, so we do some reduced damage and we'd apply that bleed, which could potentially get turned into a bonus. Now keep in mind, only one penalty gets turned into a bonus, so if we did the poison and the bleed, one of those would stick around. And finally, we have our skeleton archer, who can do 50 damage to the back and apply poison, or 15 nature damage and apply poison. So basically, we only have one way to deal morale damage, and that is with our orc. And it's not going to be enough to really do anything effectively, so we need to try the strategy where we just try to outright kill a target or get them pretty low. So what we're going to do here, and keep in mind, this character will only heal one hero's maximum life by 50% after a fight. So if we damage all three of them, only one of them will get healed. So our front attack that's possible is going to be air. So we want to put someone in the front who has a high air resistance. It looks like that's going to be our skeleton archer. So we'll put him in the front. Typically, I wouldn't put him in the front, but because he has the high air resistance and that's the only attack that specifically targets the front, it means he's going to take a lot less damage from that. He'll take 23, 22, something like that from this attack. Whereas someone like this character would take the full 45 plus an additional 25%, or this character would take the full 45 plus an additional 40%. So that would be pretty terrible. The back row is physical damage, so we want to put someone with high armor. So we have 35% armor on our orc. So we'll throw them in the back, and then we'll throw our goblin in the middle. Now this ice damage attack is going to hit everybody regardless. So there's no point in trying to strategically place our units for that. Once we've set up our units here, we're going to confirm. That's going to take us to the next step where we're going to put out a trap. Remember, the scout's going to dodge the effects of the first trap. So I'm going to go ahead and we have a couple of options here. I'm going to play the rallying horn. This is going to hit all of the enemy heroes for minus 10 morale, but more importantly, it's going to apply Enraged 3 to our next group of monsters, which is going to increase their damage dealt by 30%. This is nice because the scout will dodge the morale damage, but we'll still get the Enrage buff on our monsters. Our other options are Bone Catapult, which does minus 10 morale and applies the Demoralize debuff, or the Circular Saw, which does physical damage and applies bleeding. So let's go ahead and put that rallying horn down, ready to confirm. It's going to skip over this because we cast the spell when the heroes actually get to the room. We don't have to pick it ahead of time. So same thing here. We already know what's going on with our heroes. If we can put someone with a strong air resistance in the front, that's ideally what we want to do. And we want to put someone with a strong physical resistance in the back. So we're going to set up like this. At this point, it's better to worry about surviving than it is positioning, like which attacks we're going to use specifically. And then for our final trap, we're going to do the circular saw. Get some damage and bleeds going. This is going to be a bit of a rough fight because of the healing and the conversion of negative effects to positive ones. But it is the first fight, so we'll see how it goes. Shouldn't be too bad. Now that the preparation phase is done, we're into the actual turn-based section here, where we're going to pick what abilities we use on who. And like I said, once again, this is based on speed. So our goblin has a speed of 120, which is faster than everybody else's speed. So he's going to go first. And the scout will go second with 95. The skeleton archer will go third with 80, and so on. Okay. So they all have unwavering. Damage taken unchanged. Okay. They will lose 15% of the hero's maximum morale when another hero is defeated, and they get 5% of the hero's maximum morale back when landing the final blow on a monster. So we're going to try to just really focus on the front character here. And we're going to do that with our poison dagger. So this is going to do 35 nature damage plus a nice chunk of other damage. There we go. Got our physical resist in the back. For this one, we're going to hit everybody with Toxic Volley, which is going to trigger and make it so that it's possible the elf will not heal the front character. Now that everybody has damage. Okay, that's that frost attack, which is really going to take us out. All right, there goes our archer. So now we're going to hit the front, and you can see she changed her negative to enraged. Okay, there we go. It's going to come back around to our goblin. Poison dagger again. If we're lucky, we'll be able to finish her off, but we'll have to see. Physical damage isn't going to be too bad. That's ice damage. Almost killed our goblin, but not quite. Okay, so we will get to finish her off with Cleaver. That was the goal. We wanted to kill a single target on this first match. It's very common, very, very common for the heroes to get past your first set of monsters. That's not unusual at all and should really be expected a lot of the time. So now we get to cast a spell. We have 3 spells to choose from. Burning Whip does 60 fire damage to the front and applies burn 3. And the front character here, the elf, has minus 30% to fire. So that seems like a really good option. Show No Mercy will grant Enrage to the next group of monsters. We already have Enrage because of our trap. We could stack it, but I don't see the reason to. And then Intimidation will apply minus 24 morale, as well as the Terrified debuff. But we're just going to use Burning Whip and take off a huge chunk of this character's health. All right, we're on to the second round of monsters. This is our skeleton Magus, or Magus, however you want to say it. It looks like we're going to be hitting the back. I was hoping we could hit the front and just finish her off with fire damage, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So we're going to do our fireball to the back. You can see our turn order over here on the side. She has minus 20 to ice. We have a ice move in the back. You can chuck that and take her out. Then we're going to go ahead and do Cleaver on the front. And there we go. We've defeated our first set of heroes. So, because we killed all the heroes, we get this resource called Blood. If we had terrified the heroes and made them run away, we could get Tears as a resource instead. Our reward here, we get some gold, and we get to draft or pick one monster to add to our team. So we have an option between a skeleton dog, a goblin drummer, and a skeleton soldier. So the skeleton dog, 65 health, really fast, 110 speed is pretty fast. Good power, decent morale. The goblin drummer, also pretty fast, really strong power, a little lower on the health there. Then we have the skeleton soldier, lots of health, on the slower side for sure. I really traditionally like the skeleton soldier because of their passive. Monsters behind the skeleton soldier take 15% less damage. They also get some nice abilities that pierce. The skeleton dog can be a good one as well. The goblin drummer I've actually never played with, so this is interesting. So we have a move that does 18 air damage, applies air weakness 2, and we have a move that affects our allies and applies enraged 4 to all monsters of the group. That's actually pretty cool. I kind of want to take the goblin drummer just to try it out, so that's what I'm going to do here. With more experience with the goblin drummer, I think I probably would normally opt for the skeleton soldier, but I want to try something new. When your monsters die, they lose 1 level of their motivation. And if they get all the way down on their motivation, then they are not able to be used in combat. You can regenerate this motivation by having them rest when there is a combat. So even when your monsters die, you get to keep them. But if they die repeatedly without you giving them a break, then there's a penalty that you incur. Okay, in week 2, we're going to do stuff for a couple of weeks here that has nothing to do with a combat. So we have the option to go to the merchant and buy a monster or trap. We can go to the trainer and level up our active monsters, or we can go to the engineer and level up our traps. Like I said, the slaveholder has a pretty good emphasis on monsters and monster combat. So I like to hit the trainer early on and give myself a nice little boost. I also like to focus on leveling up characters that are going to get new skills when they are leveled up. And you can see that here in the green. It means when this character hits the next level, they're going to gain 10 health, they're going to gain 5 power, 20 nature resistance, and a new passive skill. So this one here says that attacks apply bleeding 3, which is pretty cool. So all characters that are the same class, so like all goblins, will have the same stuff here. So if we go over to Norrell, our orc, we're going to see all these increases, plus a passive that implies enraged 1 to all monsters of the group when the orc is attacked. And if we look at our other orc, it's going to be the same thing. The only thing different on these monsters is the names. Our skeleton archer is going to get a passive that says attacks apply 1 additional stack of poison if he's in the front, or he gains dodge 1 and plus 40 speed at the start of the fight. Dodge 1 just dodges an attack. That's actually really nice. The positioning on this is super cool. I think we're probably going to level him up for sure. Our skeleton Magus is going to get a new attack that can affect the front and deal 60 fire damage and 3 burn. Pretty nice. Gives him flexibility to hit anywhere. I like that a lot. Our Yetigo will get a passive that gains enraged 3 when a monster of the group is defeated, which is pretty nice because he has a lot of health, so he tends to stay alive for quite a while. And then our goblin drummer is going to get a passive that says damage dealt increased by 100% if the target's air resistance is negative. So we've got some good ones. I definitely want to get the skeleton Magus to have that flexibility to attack anywhere. I want to get the goblin archer for those bonuses. And it looks like we can level up our goblin as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Now in week 2, We can go to the merchant again. We can go to the therapist, which will give an employee a morale review done by a specialist, which will recover some of that motivation. Or we can do a random event. Since we are basically broke, I don't want to go to the merchant. And since we just started, I don't really want to do anything with the morale. So we're going to do the random event. The R&D manager needs a guinea pig to test a new trap. He's asking you to provide him with one of your employees in exchange for some gold. So we can get rid of our level 1 orc in exchange for 500 gold. That's actually a pretty significant amount of gold, especially for a level 1. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. We haven't invested anything into that character, so I'm kind of okay with giving it up. The alchemist will let you transmute blood or tears into another resources, so you can do blood to tears or blood to gold, etc., etc. So if you are focused on killing, but you need those like tears for something, the alchemist is where you can translate some of that over. It is showing me this icon because I don't have enough resources to actually do any of the transmutations. So it helps me avoid picking this choice that isn't actually going to let me do anything. So let's do another event. A shifty-looking supplier is offering you some human thighs to feed your employees at a discount price. They don't look or smell particularly fresh, but you know that the management would grant you a sweet salary bonus for reducing overheads. So there's a chance that this has a negative effect on our monsters, but we do get some free gold. This early on, I think it's okay because generally the fights are going to be a little easier. So we're going to take it. I don't know that we got a penalty there. And now we're into week 5. And we're back at another round of adventurers. If we hover over this, we can see the difficulty. We can see that the reward is going to be a monster draft and some gold. All right, so let's jump in and we'll repeat this process. We'll go a little bit faster than we did the first time. So first thing we're going to do is check the layout. Then we're going to check the heroes and see what we have coming in. So we have trap monsters, trap spell monsters. Coming in, we have 3 brand new heroes. So we have the magician, who at the start of the very first fight will randomly move all monsters to another position. We have the thug, who applies poison 4 to the monster with the highest life at the start of the fight. And then we also have the novice, who removes the penalty with the most stacks applied from all heroes at the start of his turn once. So these guys are dealing ice damage, nature damage, and fire damage. So we have a good variety here. So we're going to need to figure out if we want to take them out via health or morale. So let's see. Our first monster set is going to be our goblin, skeleton archer, and goblin drummer. So that's going to be interesting. Our last group is going to be our orc, skeleton magus, and our yetigo. Aside from the novice, the rest of these are relatively low health, so I think there's a good chance we could take them out. So let's go ahead and... let's see, the novice is fairly slow. I think we're going to do... I want to save the rallying horn for our second group of monsters because they have a lot more health than these do, and I think we'll get the benefit of the enrage longer on them. So I think we're going to hit the circular saw here as our first trap, do some damage and get a bleed going. Okay, so with the magician here, he randomly moves all monsters to another position at the start of the first fight. So this makes it so that we can't set up our positioning the way we want to. However, there's a couple tricks we can use here. If, for example, there's a monster that we definitely don't want to be in the front, we can place that monster in the front because he will randomly move to a different position instead. Same thing if we have one we don't want to be in the back. We can mix those up as well. So it's going to be a little bit of a crapshoot here on the first one. It looks like the person in the front, we want to have high ice damage. Our lowest ice damage is going to be our goblin. So we definitely do not want him in the front. So we'll put him in the front so when he gets shuffled, he'll be somewhere else. The front is going to have nature damage as well, which he does have a decent resistance to. Nothing we can really do about that one. I think the ice one is more important here. And then this is area fire damage, so that doesn't really matter too much either. We don't want our archer to be in the middle because we want him to have the bonus from his passive, whether that's the front or back one. So we'll put him in the middle. And then we will put our goblin drummer in the back. This is going to be a crappy fight because all the characters we have here are pretty low on health. And they're probably just going to get obliterated. But they are also still pretty fast. So hopefully they can all get a hit in. We're going to do our rallying horn to get our enrage. We'll cast our spells. Our next set of monsters. Now this time the magician will not shuffle them because it's only at the start of the first fight, which will be this one in this room over here. So now we can actually set up the way we want. We want someone with strong ice resistance and preferably strong poison resistance in the front. For these two, the fire resistance goes across the board, so that doesn't matter too much. So the thing to think about here is if this guy dies, the next person becomes the person in the front. So we're going to want to keep that high ice or nature resistance person in the front as well. So it looks like our Yeti Go is the best option there. And that's going to do it.
Come get some.
Come get some. Alright, so this guy should turn those bleeds into a buff, which is going to make this fight even more difficult. That's about as best as we could have asked for with the positioning, actually. Okay, so we have the option of nature damage with Poison Dagger, which they are all highly resistant to. Or we can go for our physical damage on the back row, which there is a minus 30% armor penalty to the magician. So I think we will go with that. Very nice. All right, so now we have our goblin drummer. So we can deal 18 air damage or apply enraged 4 to all monsters of the group. So we have minus 25, minus 20. They are all weak to air. So we're going to do this area air attack. So we're definitely going to do that because that's going to hit all of them decently hard. Very nice. Okay, and then finally here we can almost finish the magician off. I think that's the option we want to go for. We could also hit everybody with a poison. But I think we're just going to go ahead and do the poison arrow. And he died because of all the ticks. There goes our archer. Okay, so this guy is... It's about the same. He's got 10% armor and 10% nature. And this guy has 15% nature. So we're going to... We're going to focus on the back. I had a feeling he was going to destroy that guy in one hit. Okay, it's back over to our goblin, who is taken down by debuffs. All right, we got our spells to cast again. This guy has minus 35% to fire resistance, so I think Burning Whip is a great idea against him. All right, so now we have the option. We can do fire column to the front. We can do fireball to the back. Let's see. Let's go ahead and just take out the thug. I'll focus the rest of our efforts on taking this guy down. So we're going to hit him with a ice block. Get him with the cleaver. And then we'll finish him off with our fireball. All right. So once again, we got more blood for killing the heroes. We got gold, and we get to draft another monster. Now, I've used the Harpy before. She's air focused, and she also speeds up monsters. Super duper helpful and useful. These other two I have not used at all. So we have the Skeleton Scientist. Deals nature damage and poison, and can deal air damage and minus 30 morale. Adds bounty 5. Interesting. I feel like we have good nature combos already with our Goblin and our Skeleton Archer. So I'm probably going to pass on the Scientist for now. And then we have the Skeleton Majorette. 60 physical damage to the front with vulnerable 2. And an area effect of fire and minus morale. That actually does seem pretty good. We don't have a whole lot of air attacks, and I do really like the Harpy. So I'm probably going to go with the Harpy this time. But the Skeleton would be probably my second choice here, and it's a close second choice. But speed is honestly king, and so I'm going to pick up the Harpy. All right, so we lost some more motivation here. Okay, so now we can upgrade our traps, go to the merchant, or do an event. We have a ton of money, so let's go to the merchant and take a look at what we can get. We can pick up an ice skeleton to give us more ice damage, a skeleton soldier, or an oil cauldron. This does 10 fire damage and applies fire weakness 4. We have one character that can take advantage of that fire weakness. And that's going to be our skeleton Magus. We're going to go ahead and put Oztaz. Oh, we can't put him in the garrison at the moment. I'm not crazy about any of these except for I do like the skeleton soldier, so I think I'm going to buy him. Let's renew for 20 and just see if anything else interesting comes up. We do have Poison Cloud, which is a pretty nice trap to have. This one just does nature damage and applies poison, so it's not reliant on us having a character that actually can follow up. And then we do have the Knoll, which has some nature damage as well, and some resistances. We're going to grab the Poison Cloud. And that's going to do it for us. Now we have the option to plunder. We can send 3 volunteers to plunder the place of our choice, and they won't be available. We don't really have enough monsters for us to do that. And we also can go on a business trip to choose an employee to protect the sales department during a business trip. Now up here, we can rearrange our monsters and decide who goes into what room. So for example, I would want my air creature to be in with my slower characters to speed them up. So since these guys are already fast, I'm not super worried about speeding them up. I would want to protect them with my skeleton soldier, however, so it makes sense to put the skeleton soldier there. And since these two guys are very slow, having the haste from the Harpy is going to be a big help. Let's do a business trip since we don't have a lot of people that we can send. So here are our options. We can send our skeleton for 5 weeks. We'll get 112 gold and plus 2 motivation. We can send our Harpy for 18 weeks to get 68 gold in an artifact, which we can have down here. It says attacks targeting only the hero at the front deal 30% of final damage to the hero positioned behind the target. That's actually pretty cool. Or we can do 8 weeks for 175 gold and 25 tiers. And we send these heroes as we go. Now, I know we just got the Harpy, but that is a really good artifact. And I think I'm going to send her and have her take off and go do that for us. So we can plunder or we can do an event. We're going to do the event. Food poisoning. The off-smelling human thighs you accepted were served in the canteen, and some of your employees got food poisoning. There's a solution to heal them, but it's prohibitively expensive. So they're either going to be unavailable for 5 weeks, or we can heal them for 200. So if they're gone for 5 weeks, we are down a ton of enemies, or a ton of monsters. So we're just going to heal it for 2,000 so we can keep them. All right, we got the Alchemist and we have the event. Let's do the event. You placed a bet on a boar racing game during lunch break. The one you chose finished first and you won the jackpot. You could use your winnings to throw a party for your employees, which would give plus motivation for all available monsters. So that would benefit 3 of our monsters. Or we can take 300 gold. We're going to take the gold for now. So it's week 10, and we have the option to fight against adventurers or veterans, which ups the difficulty, but also ups the reward. So we would get a trap and some gold from the regular difficulty, and we would get a master bonus and some gold from doing the veterans. Now, a master bonus would be something like bonus to our health, bonus to our power, etc., etc. For right now, we're just going to go with regular adventurers until we get the opportunity to hit up the trainer and pump up our monsters some more. Okay, so now you can see, since we have more monsters in that room, we have options of who we put down and not just 3 creatures. So we have an apprentice who's going to deal ice damage to the monster with the lowest ice resistance at the start of each fight. We've got another elf with the heal, and we have another priestess with the penalty replacement. So we've got air damage in the front. Looks like everybody has good air resistance except for our goblin. We've got ice damage across the board, which we can't really help. And then we have fire damage in the front. So ideally, we want someone with good fire damage and good air resistance in the front. So that's going to be our archer. Then we are going to place down our skeleton soldier in the middle for the damage reduction to our goblin drummer. Now, just to confirm that we don't want a ton of extra nature damage or physical damage, we're going to take a look here. It would actually be pretty nice to have the goblin in, but I think we're going to keep this composition. All right, for traps, we've got minus 45 nature, 0 nature, and minus 35 nature. So Poison Cloud seems pretty good since that is nature damage based. Got our spell. We got another trap. We're going to do the Rallying Horn for the Enrage on our monsters. Again, we want someone with high fire and air if we can get it. Definitely not this guy. That guy's pretty decent. Yeah, so he's going to go in the front. Then you just kind of fill it out from here. -75 versus -35. We'll do here and here. All right, that's going to be our monster comp. Not too bad. It's going to be a little bit worse the second time around. Okay, so we have our option to do air damage or to apply enrage. So 25% resistance, 0, and -25. So a mixed bag on the area damage. It'll also apply air resist or air weakness, which we can't capitalize on. So I think for right now we're just going to do our war drum. Yeah, we'll do war drum. Okay, so we've got -35%. We could also, I think we want to toxic volley here, even though this does a significant amount of damage. Or we may actually just want to get all that damage in if we can. Yeah, let's get the big chunk of damage in. We can just hope that the elf doesn't heal her. So we're going to do our spear strike. There we go. So everyone's taken a little bit of damage so far. There goes our archer. We're going to do our din and hit everybody again. Probably going to lose our skeleton. Definitely going to lose our skeleton. All right, let's do some AoE again. Goodbye. Okay, so she did heal the character in the back. It's good. Those poisons are going to be nice. We are definitely going to Burning Whip and just take this character out. All right, here's our last group of monsters that are enraged. All right, she's going to go first. Fire damage against our fire guy. Not going to do a whole heck of a lot. She's going to have pretty high fire resistance because she casts with fire. She, on the other hand, has -30% fire resistance, which is why we picked up the ability to flex on either the front, back, or the whole area. So now we can do fire column and almost destroy the target. All right, we're going to go ahead and do freezing breath because it applies to both targets. We're going to follow that up with cleaver to finish off our first opponent. And fireball will finish her off. Sweet. So we got our blood, and now we get to pick up another trap. So we have the option of poison dart, which deals damage and applies poison. Pandora's box, which says -10 morale. Stacks of all penalties applied to heroes are increased by 2. Or the ballista, which does physical damage and breaks armor. These are all actually pretty nice. We do have a lot of like bleeds and poisons and stuff, so Pandora's box could be pretty good. The armor break for this one is also pretty good. We don't have as many physical attacks. And then poison dart is just good against heroes that are susceptible to nature damage. I think we're going to pick up Pandora's box here just because we have so many debuffs that we're applying to the enemy. I think we'll get a lot of use out of it. All right, so our boys are getting tired for sure. So we're going to want to hit up the trainer. And we're going to want to level up some of these characters. So we'll get some of the ones that we have at level 1, leveled up to level 2. So this gives our skeleton soldier a front targeted ability that deals damage and deals 100% of the final damage to the hero position just behind the target. Train that up. Damage dealt increased by 100% if the target's air resistance is negative. We'll train that up. And I want to save some money for this black market. Sell monsters in garrison that are no longer useful to you. Unavailable or injured monsters are less valuable. So we could do that, but I think we need all of our monsters right now. So we're going to do this event instead. It's high time to go through the stock room. During the cleaning, one of your employees found this strange object. Would you like to take it, auction it, or gift it to the employee? So we can take it, sell it, or give it to our employee, who does not need motivation or anything. It says Ring of Wrath. All monsters of the group gain Enrage 3 when a creature is defeated. I think we will take it. Okay, we can drop back into the trainer. And let's go ahead and get our orc leveled up. It's going to leave us with 11 gold. Call it good there. So now we can work out, go to the merchant, which we have no money, or do another event. Let's work out. So we can do some yoga to add +5 to our regeneration for our slaveholder. So we'll do that. Cash in 20 blood. And then we're back for adventurers. This time the reward is a monster and some gold. All right, let's confirm. Keep everybody in the same rooms. That seems okay to me. All right, so we are getting the second tier of heroes. You can see these are level 2 now. So we have trap monster, trap spell monsters. All right, so let's take a look at these. We have the scholar, which we saw before, but now they have a passive. They can't be affected by demoralized, which is a morale penalty. We have the Imagigon, which is a new one here. Can't be affected by poison. And we have the skill, gives 30% of one hero's maximum morale back after a fight once. Not a big deal if we don't go for morale. And then we have our Berserker. Ignores the first attack suffered. Applies Enraged 3 to all heroes at the start of the fight. So no poison in the middle, no demoralized in the back. And ignores the first attack suffered. So I think I want to kick things off with, I think Pandora's Box might actually be a good one to do right at the beginning. Okay, and then we're going to want to set these up based on resistances. So we got 43 physical in the front with broken armor, 61 air in the back, and 38 fire. So fire and physical in the front, if possible. 25, 25, 20, -50, 0, -40, -40, 65. Okay, and then in the back, we want someone who is resistant to air. I think we're going to go with him in the back. We'll go with our goblin in the front, and then we'll go with our skeleton soldier in the middle. For our next trap, I think we're going to probably hit the rallying horn. And boost our monsters with Enrage. Got our spell room. And then we got our last one. So again, we want physical and fire in the front. If possible. Doesn't look like we're going to get it. So we probably just want to put someone with a lot of health in the front. And then we want our air resistance in the back. Okay, so we're going to do this setup here. These guys might actually make it to the master. There's a good chance they make it to this room finally. This is going to be rough. Okay, so this guy will ignore the first attack that he suffers. But she will not. We're going to hit her in the back. Alright, we're going to do Toxic Volley here. Just to go ahead and break off his passive ability. We got our dodge there, which is nice. We're going to do Impalement. Alright, we're probably going to lose our skeleton here. But we do get a chance to drop a poison arrow in the back, and we've almost killed off that character. The skeleton really held up there. So Burning Whip's not going to do a whole lot, so I think we're going to apply Enraged to our monsters and just boost up the amount of damage they're going to do. So they have Enraged 6, so they do 60% more damage. Oof. Okay, so we can do a fireball in the back. I think we're going to keep trying to hit the back here. And just get her taken care of. Alright, so Ice Block will finish her off. I believe that is the option we want to take. Alright, now we can focus down another character. The morale option might not be a bad way to go for this guy in the front. So we're going to do Scream of Terror. Alright, we have Fear the Dead, we have Fireball. I think Fireball in the back is going to be good. Alright, then we have Ice Block, which just about takes him out. Alright, I think we do another Scream of Terror. We're going to try to morale this guy until he goes away. Alright, if we do Fire Column, that's going to target our opponent here because of our artifact. Do that. And at this point, we can really hit him for a ton of damage. Wow. Okay, we're going to put him down right here, I think. Yep. Okay, so they were the closest, I think, to making it to our dungeon master, but they didn't quite make it there. So we've got the ice skeleton, the gnoll, and we have the skeleton here. I think I want to pick up the skeleton. I like the idea of applying vulnerable to the enemy. Okay. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for this episode. A run for this can take quite a while, especially, getting you into it and introducing you to the game in general. But we'll definitely pick back up and continue this run. And we're also going to continue on and play as more of the dungeon masters in the future as well. So you'll get a look at what those are like. I'm really excited to continue to show this game to you guys. Like I said, it's one of my favorites of 2020. I enjoy it quite a bit, and I really like the strategy aspects and the monster management and leveling up and all that kind of good stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you're interested in this game. Either way, I hope you're having fun with whatever games you're out there playing. I appreciate you being here on the channel, and I'll see you on the next video.